Hey guys, it's Dorr and Myles of Tactical Hyve, and in today's video, it's all about personal safety. We've got 10 tips and tricks for you. Generally speaking on the channel, it's all about the hard skills, shooting guns, yelling, screaming, passing the word, but obviously,
soft skills are extremely important, and for those of you who follow us on Instagram or even Facebook, we don't just post about the hard skills. We know that it's very important to learn the soft skills, situational awareness, and a lot of other things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So if you're interested, make sure to stay tuned.
all right guys, we are back, and it's all about personal safety on this one.
And when it comes to personal safety, we know that a lot of our viewers are gun owners, and make sure you are covered for that second fight. So even if you're right, and even if you're wrong, whatever it is, law's gonna come after you. They're gonna wanna go after your money, and just gonna cause you a lot of problems. So make sure you're covered. At the channel, we like to use CCW Safe. They're a big supporter of the channel. So if you don't have self-defense protection, make sure to check out CCW Safe down below. Now let's get to the content.
Law enforcement. I ain't no cop, I'm just a private citizen concerned about his own personal safety.
All right, Dorr, personal safety. What do we always talk about? Which, I mean, it needs to be repeated over and over and over again.
It all comes down to, first and foremost, what's most important, pretty much in all aspects of life, but obviously keeping yourself safe, is just situational awareness. And what that means is just what it sounds like. You're aware of your surroundings, the situation that you're in. Whether you're at home, you're traveling, you're at work, you just need to be aware of your surroundings, what's going on, and in particular, what other human beings are doing, generally speaking. Yeah, there are animals with sharp teeth that you need to be wary of sometimes, but we're here to talk about, our fellow men and women here on the planet. And situational awareness, guys, educate yourself. Don't just take our word for it, but just not getting zoned in. Everybody lives on their screens nowadays. Take a break, blink, look around, engage with what's going on around you, pay attention, maybe even eavesdrop a little bit. I don't know. It just depends on you, but don't zone out.
Sometimes I zone out when I'm keeping an eye on things.
It's almost like driving a car. You're situationally aware when you're driving because it's extremely dangerous. Just when you're on your feet walking around, pretend you're driving a car. If that makes sense. At least the level of attention that you're paying to your surroundings, if that makes sense.
Now we know there's probably quite a few of you who are like, oh, it's just common sense. I know to be more aware, but the truth is, if it was common sense, there wouldn't be as many surprises for a lot of people who are in a deadly encounter or some kind of a criminal act involved in one or a victim of one. And as Dorr mentioned, situational awareness is about educating yourself, because if it isn't common sense, there are certain things you're not going to know. And there are certain patterns and pre-threat indicators that are not necessarily common sense, and you need to, again, educate yourself.
So bringing it back to my driving analogy, if you see a vehicle on the road doing the wrong thing, it's coming over the center line, it's going too fast, it's blowing through red lights, it's just cutting across traffic, you're going to notice that stuff as a driver. If you see erratic behavior on foot and you're just a normal person doing something that's not normal, definitely take notice of that and pay attention to it, because there are often indicators before an event or a encounter, whatever you want to call it, a violent situation occurs. And if you can identify those, you can create distance from that individual, just like you would driving. You don't want your car anywhere near that guy's car or gal or whatever it is. Just approach situational awareness the same way in regards to driving or threats.
To add to what we've already talked about, situational awareness is also knowing your environment and knowing what is appropriate for that environment so that you don't stand out as an easy target or a potential target. For example, jewelry and clothing. If you want to stay under the radar, would it be best to be wearing flashy clothing at an event where everyone's just wearing, t-shirt and jeans and things like that?
Or vice versa. If you are going to a fancy occasion, a wedding, a dinner, whatever, that's okay too. But just understand that if you are going to be dressed really well, have jewelry, high dollar items, if you're going to be in any kind of a high risk area, like a downtown in an American city these days, you need to have a plan, way you're getting in, the way you're getting out. Are you going to be walking long distance on the streets? That's the kind of stuff you need to take into account. So maybe dressing down for the transit is a good idea. Blending in that first environment before you get to your final destination. Just at least thinking about this stuff preemptively can keep you out of a lot of bad situations.
And for those of you who want to learn more, there's a book that a lot of situational experts always allude to, and that is Left of Bang. So that is something on Amazon. I think it's like $20, and they go a lot more in depth. And you'll realize it's not just common sense. There's a lot more to it. It's relatively cheap. It's an easy read. So I highly recommend that you give it. You read it, and then give it to anyone else that your loved ones or friends that you are concerned about.
Situational awareness, was number one on the list because it's very important. As long as you're maintaining situational awareness, you can preemptively keep yourself out of trouble. At least that's the idea behind it.
So, Dorr, what do we have for number 2?
Number 2, it all comes down to confidence. Presenting yourself with confidence, walking with confidence, being confident.
A sense of confidence is nothing but a sense of power within yourself, a sense of certainty that you can pull something off.
Predators, be it human or wherever you want to go in the animal kingdom, they're going to go after the easiest target they can, all right? The young, the sick, the wounded. So if you can present yourself as confident, in the military we call it squared away, they won't select you. Unfortunately, they will select somebody, but it won't be you because you look like you're more trouble than it's worth, is really what it boils down to.
Criminals want an easy target.
Yeah, want an easy target.
So walk with a purpose. It's interesting because almost every morning I walk my daughter to school, and there's this one lady who if I could take footage of her as B-roll and show you, she walks with a purpose. And if I were a criminal, I'm not gonna even deal with her. She might beat me up. So I'm like, that is something that also does not come natural for some people because their head is down, they're looking primarily at their phones, so there's no awareness too. So just that little thing can help deter criminals. All right, so Dorr, what do we have next on the list?
Online security. And not necessarily, what you're aware of, what you are posting on your social media channels, sites, profiles, whatever you want to call them, but it's what everybody else is gathering and posting and sharing in regards to your personal information, employment history, financial information, where you went to school, where you have lived. All that kind of stuff is being packaged and sold all around the internet, and it's fairly easy to find.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of different sites out there that share information, and who knows the fine print with different sites where you share information with. They might have the legal right to share your information with brokers. And when's the last time you searched for your own name online? It's crazy. You might find, particularly if you have a unique name, you might find out that there's different sites that are sharing where you live, where your family lives, who your relatives are, so on and so forth, financial information. So it's really a big deal when it comes to online security.
It's now clear this cyber threat is one of the most serious national security challenges we face as a nation.
Something that I am aware of and worry about, but I just really haven't taken any steps to really try to minimize myself online, but I know you have. What did you do?
So people who know me personally, I'm a pretty private person. Like even when it comes to social media, I don't even have any personal accounts. The personal accounts I have been from way before, and they're not updated at all. And so I remember sometime last year, I decided to search for my name on Google, like some people do every so often, and noticed that there was all this information. Again, I could see that people could tell where all my relatives lived, all of that stuff, and that's stuff I didn't want. So I looked into different solutions to get rid of that. And because it's not just having information out there, there's different things. You can cause financial harm, emotional harm, even potential physical harm in the sense that people will know where you're living. If they want to find you, they can find you. So I looked into different ways to get rid of that information. And one thing you'll find out is it's really hard to do it by yourself because again, we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of different websites. And in order to do it by yourself, you have to contact them individually, request all this information, keep track. So that's when I decided to use some kind of company or software that would just manage it all for me. And I came across Delete Me. So Delete Me is exactly that. It's a software service that just does everything for you. So when you use a online privacy, online security program like Delete Me, and I chose Delete Me because they're a very reputable company, been around for a long time, their entire team is in the US, and they're very thorough with the reports, which I'll show you in a second. So as you'll see in the dashboard here, it tells me that Delete Me has reviewed over 25,000 websites. There were 39 brokers with my info. And there's a lot of information here that you can use to see kind of where your information was spread out online. When you create an account with Delete Me, it's really simple to use. So you'll access this data sheet. It's going to be an intake form, basically where they will ask you questions about where you've lived before, your name, addresses, all that stuff. And it's really easy. And once you finish this, you don't really have to do anything at all. The next step is going to be the Delete Me team reviewing all of the listings out there based on the information that you sent. And this is not just done algorithmically or automatically. They manually review the sites and they manually reach out to get all that information taken away from those sites or removed from the sites. So after the initial report is done, Delete Me will scan and delete all other listings throughout the year. So it's not just going to be a one-off thing. They do this every 3 months. And what I like is their transparent reporting, which I referred to earlier. So periodically, you're going to get a report just like this. And they're going to tell you what they've done since the last report that you received. And I really like the fact that they share everything with you. So total listings reviewed, matching listings removed, but they also share the actual websites that they're working with. So you'll see here with White Pages Pro, it's being cleaned. So none of my information is there. With Spokio, people background check, the removal is in progress. So by the next report, this is most likely going to be removed. And it goes on and on. It shares all the different websites. So it's a really simple process. You just fill that intake form once and then Delete Me basically takes care of the rest. There are a lot of options out there that can help, but I can only really speak about Delete Me. I've used them now since the end of 2022 and I really like the results. It's been night and day. Before using them, search my name, I was all over the place. Now it's pretty much gone from all the major broker sites, and I know that they're continually working to remove all the other results. So I like them so much that we arranged a deal for you, for our Tackle Hyve viewers. If you do want to look into them and you do want to sign up, you can use the code HYVE20 for 20% off. So if you want more information on Delete Me, check them out in the description below. All right, number 4. We already alluded to how you and I don't really use social media, but for those of you who do, what's important?
You know, not broadcasting where you're going to be, where you're at. I know that's counterintuitive to a lot of people. You want as many people on earth to know exactly what you're doing, what you're eating, what you're feeling, you know, and how it makes you feel. But
the main thing is don't share online. Yes, social media is great for being connected, but it's also a great avenue for criminals to know exactly what you're doing, when you're not going to be home, where you're going to be. So don't overshare online. If Dorr and I were talking about this before, where if you're going to post maybe about an event or something like that, post about it after you're at the event. Don't talk about you going there on this date at this time and what you're going to wear. So just something to think about.
yeah, if somebody knows where you are or where you're going to be, they also know where you're not going to be. Mm-hmm. And that results in an opportunity, unfortunately, to, take from you, be ready when you come back, etc. So the less they know, the less that you put out there in the world, the better, the safer you're going to be. Mm-hmm.
And that's a good segue to our next personal safety tip, knowing where you're going to be, knowing where you're not going to be. And it's connected to patterns. Mm-hmm. And I know you have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, not setting patterns. If you look at this from a predatory or bad guy perspective, setting patterns is one of the worst things you can do to set yourself up for failure or finding yourself in a dangerous encounter. And what setting patterns means is if you're leaving, say, your house at the exact same time every day, you're taking the exact same routes. When you're driving, yes, you are a bit safer, but say you go jogging or you're jogging the same route. You're going through the woods, you're taking trails, you're taking paths that cut through neighborhoods. That's the way they make neighborhoods these days. That's not good. You should be varying up your routes. You should be changing the times. And then obviously, if you live in a city, you're coming and going, you're taking the same routes. I would vary it up, plus or minus 15, 20 minutes this way or that way, taking different routes. If you are going to be out and about on the street, then, maybe have somebody that's specific that you walk with. That can also help, groups sticking together, that can keep you safer. But that's one of the big things I preach for keeping yourself safe is do not establish patterns.
And we know we're all creatures of habit. and it becomes easier to go through our jobs and lives when we know what we're going to do. We follow routines in our lives, and it just makes things easier. But based on your lifestyle, your situation, circumstance, I mean, we don't really know how you live, but you have to weigh out the benefits with the potential costs, right? Do you need to be more safe and maybe break the routine, or are you okay and will you be safe having the same pattern over and over, day in and day out? You know, you'll have to make that decision.
This severe routine is getting old, okay?
All right, number 6. This is something that for a lot of us at Title Hyve, it is pretty common knowledge, but sometimes when we talk to people, we've realized that they've never really thought about that. And that is any type of device, particularly in your car, the GPS systems, don't have your home address input into the system. No matter how convenient it might seem to just go, hey, take me home, or to tap home, and then you're given the address and your map just brings you there. A criminal who has access to your car they now know where you live.
You know, what should you do instead? Do you want to set a home address? Well, you know, maybe set it as the police department.
Police department near your home, or a neighbor you don't like. And it goes beyond the GPS in your car. Nowadays, there are different apps on your phone that will save your home address because they know it's more convenient, so you don't always have to input it in. I know that different map apps already are using that too. So instead of inputting your address, input an address that you are familiar with, so that from that address, you know exactly how to get home. Not everyone needs the exact address input into their GPS to know how to get home.
All right, guys, number 7, okay? It's all about making comms, getting that word out, getting the communication out for help, to a higher level of care, whatever it is. And for daily use, that comes down to cell phones. You know, in the military, we have radios. We also have cell phones actually nowadays, but you know, another story for another day. But understanding how your phone works, how the emergency contacts work, having people that are going to be vital to you in your time of need properly labeled, you know, your wife, your husband, your mother, your father, have that next to their name, because if they're digging through your phone, they don't know who's who. Emergency contacts are important, and then also how to speed dial 911.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, hi, there's a crazy guy at my high school. He's trying to beat me up.
So we're already beginning to talk about if something's already happening. So we talked about preventive measures. Now your cell phone can come in handy if you're in the thick of it right now. Something is about to happen or is happening. And every smartphone has functions, emergency SOS functions, as Dorr already alluded to, and being able to call someone or 911 immediately without having to unlock your phone. As I mentioned, all phones are a little different, but all of the instructions are all over the web. If you go to YouTube, type in your particular model, or just even on Google, and how to use the emergency SOS features, you're gonna get all that information. And it's very quick, it's very fast. And at least with iPhones, I know you can customize it too. So you can choose which buttons will activate that SOS call. One thing to keep in mind is that if you set up your emergency SOS feature, that's great and you use it, but also add your emergency contacts as a secondary tier to be called automatically. So what will happen is the smartphones, the emergency SOS feature will call 911 first. After that call is done and your location is shared, what will happen is your location will be shared with your emergency contacts as well, and let them know that something's going down. So this is a really good preventive measure.
You know, when it comes to any type of equipment or procedure, you do not want to be figuring that out in the heat of the moment. So it doesn't matter what make, model, phone you have, or whatever it is you're using, you need to know ahead of time. So take the time, open it up, go through your features, research it online. There's the University of YouTube's probably got a tutorial on exactly how to use each and every function on your phone, but take the time now. Do not be trying to figure it out later, because you won't.
Dorr, I've got a question for you. Try to recall a moment where you were in a big crowd or things were happening, or maybe you've experienced this, but when you heard a really loud noise, what did you do? Or what did everyone do?
Yeah, it startles people. So something that shouldn't be there, a really loud sound, it could be anything, you know, even dropping something, you know, fireworks, pyrotechnics, a car horn, a gunshot, anything like that. It has a tendency to make people freeze because they're startled. And when you're startled, you need to start figuring out why very quickly, because it could be danger. And that's just a natural subconscious thing that happens in your mind as part of your just self-preservation.
And that's a natural segue into our 8th tip, and that is to think about having a blowhorn, whether it's in your car, at home, And I know from experience, it really will just take your attention away, and it can stop a lot of different conflicts. There are 2 occasions where I've experienced a blowhorn really coming in handy, and one was during a big riot rumble, and that blowhorn immediately stops everybody, catches their attention. Now, of course, it's only temporary, but that temporary pause in activity could be all the time you need. One, to either get away, to maybe if you have a tool on you, to access your tool. But not only is it effective for human confrontations, it's something really effective for if you live in the wilderness and maybe there's wildlife. That loud noise will stop a lot of animals. And there are a lot of real life videos and documentation about horn stopping dog fights. Or if you have a little dog and a dog is coming after you, you blow that horn, that dog, that attacking dog is just gonna scurry away. So something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally just using sound as a first level of force. And if that's all it takes, great. Using the least amount of force to achieve that desired effect, which is stopping the threat, great. Less red tape to clean up afterwards, all that stuff, Definitely something to think about. And yeah, those big loud noises, it draws attention. People who are doing bad things do not want attention drawn to themselves. And it just has a way to make people pause. And when you're in a confrontation, seconds count, fractions of seconds can count, and that interruption, stopping the cycle, the vicious cycle of violence or whatever it is from occurring, that teeny tiny little pause might be all you need. So if, again, now that we're getting into tools needed to keep yourself safe, obviously the blowhorn doesn't actually hurt anybody. Yeah, it could hurt your ears and it's unpleasant. But if you need to, the next step up, pain compliance is what it's called. And yes, bullets and blades can give you that, but bullets and blades, are
It's not for everybody, and not everyone carries.
Yeah, not everyone carries, and we're not here to convince anybody what a great idea that is. But a nice in-between, from blowhorn, completely non-contact, non-violent means, and, firearms being on the other end, is pepper spray. Pepper spray, OC spray, mace, was what they used to call it. I don't think they call it that anymore.
Pepper spray, I think mace is a brand now. It's kind of like simunition.
And it works great. I've been pepper sprayed in training a few times. I actually, when I was a little kid, and this stuff is dangerous, so keep it out of reach of children. My mom had some on her keys. She worked downtown at the hospital back in the raging 80s. And I actually found her pepper spray on her keychain. And when I was fiddling around with it, I actually shot it across the room and hit my little brother in the face. He lived. It's fine. But so what I'm saying is this stuff does require training. Again, what we alluded to earlier, don't be in the heat of the moment when you're trying to figure this stuff out. Even something as, non-lethal, not as dangerous as pepper spray, you could just as easily hit somebody you didn't intend to, or even yourself if you're not trained in how to deploy this stuff properly.
And there's lots of different options out there. I mean, more than anyone would ever want to look through, but there are differences. The one that I like a lot, and I have creating a separate review for this because this is very near and dear to my heart. I used this throughout high school and college. I know it works absolutely well. And I like this the best out of all pepper sprays. It's the ASP Metro Defender. I like this the best because it's natural posture. You can keep your hands up if you're fighting. You can, if you're getting punched or things like that, your hands are up. And it's easily dispensed by just pushing on this top knob. And there's a safety as well. And if you guys want more information on this, I'll leave it below. But any pepper spray is going to work. But the main thing is you need that training. You need to be able to activate it when you need it and understand the dangers of it as well. Knowing that if you're spraying into the wind, that thing can come back at you, so on and so forth. So the main thing is educate yourself. And the last personal safety tip has to do with calls. And a lot of people are scammed. A lot of people give different information that they don't want to over the phone, and they don't realize it. This happens a lot on a daily basis.
Emails too.
So let me give you an example of the phone calls. So when you get a call from what seems like a reputable company, whatever it is, maybe it's your bank and they're pretending to be your bank and the number checks out on caller ID, things like that, and they're asking you different questions. Those questions could be a potential or a criminal wanting to know, are you going to be home, or maybe they're trying to get identity information to steal your identity. It could be a lot of different things. So a good idea is when you feel like people are asking personal questions or questions that you don't want to answer, then instead of answering them from an inbound call, because you don't know where they're really calling from. It might just seem like they're calling from a reputable organization. Instead of answering them then, you could say, hey, you know what, can I call you back? Then call the official number, and then from there you'll know if it's real or if it was just a scam.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
And the same thing can happen with email. You get these phishing emails that they're just blasting out to the masses, and they might look 100% legit from a large, reputable company, but there's going to be teeny tiny little differences. Big way to tell is the actual website or email address up at the top.
To give you a specific example of that, let's say wellsfargo.com, you get an email, the branding matches Wells Fargo, so on and so forth, but because you're busy or you're just not paying attention, you don't notice that the domain actually says Wells Farg instead of Fargo, or maybe instead of .com it says .co. So you need to consider all of that stuff.
All right, guys, so that was our 10 tips on personal security. Obviously here on the channel, we spend a lot of time on hardware, hard skills, weapons, tactics, etc. But
arguably more important are the soft skills, the software. So we wanted to dive into that, dip into that in this video. And as we mentioned earlier, a lot of people think these are common knowledge, but the more people we talk to, we realize that it's not as common as we think, thus this video.
So anyway, guys, on the channel, we're all about being out on the range and working in and out of our gear, shooting guns. But today, we just wanted to cover those soft skills. It's something that we use in our daily life, and we thought we'd share it with you.
So we hope you liked the video. As always, please give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions or other personal safety tips, let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We produce content every single day. We don't sleep. Like none of us sleep. So we're here just for you. And a lot of people tend to miss our content. They don't realize that a quality video is coming out. So hit that bell so you're notified. And Dorr and I will see you next time.